Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
President Trump joins the ranks of world leaders testing positive for COVID-19. Confirmation came overnight, first in a tweet from Mr. Trump, later in a memo from the White House physician, who said First Lady Melania Trump also is infected. ABC Chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl says it might only have been a matter of time.
When I go into the White House, you see signs as you enter telling you must socially distance, stay 6 feet apart, wear a mask. But I've got to tell you, I have observed over and over again officials in that White House not socially distancing.
Yeah, probably not. But what news is this? In so many different ways, it gets no bigger than this. The President of the United States, the thing that has been the bane of the world's existence for the last year, starting almost a year ago, probably a year ago in China, and growing, and then for all of this year, globally, that has become the biggest political issue, the biggest economic issue, the biggest of everything you can think of. But also the thing that became a battle, a thing at times that Trump kind of dismissed, and at times he took ultra serious, and at times he realized he was in the middle of an election, as anybody would, trying to win another 4 years and taking all of the blame because you're the President of the United States. In a battle that had become nasty and ugly, and lo and behold, he comes down with it, along with his wife. And how many other people, I don't know. It started yesterday about 8 o'clock Eastern, maybe a little bit later, the announcement that Hope Hicks had tested positive. Hope Hicks is a very close confidant of the president, kind of somebody who's got the president's ear a la Kellyanne Conway, and has been working in the White House again since March. And it popped up. She had tested positive. Some people probably went like, who cares? But then you start to realize she not only travels with the president. This isn't somebody who's one of these, you watch all the press conferences, or you see those TV shows and the movies where, like the Secretary of Defense will come in and a few other people, and they've got those, the aides that are with them, and they're just taking notes. No, this is a person who's in the room with the president, has his ear literally. They spend a ton of time together. She tested positive. She started having symptoms. So immediately, once that went out, about 20 minutes later, the president said, we've taken a test, and Melania and I are going to do what? We're going to quarantine. And then, boom, it happened. He's got it. So does she. This is 2020. You can't even write a script. Though they say, truth is stranger than fiction. This is what it's all about. We are a little over. Let's take a look. Today is Friday the 2nd. Tomorrow's the 3rd. It'll be 1 month tomorrow to the election. And there's a potential that Trump is not going to see another debate. And I don't see how the debate's going to happen in 2 weeks. Maybe. We'll see. It's a possibility. God willing, it does. Not that it really matters after that chaos the other night. But then you got to think about his health. Most importantly is his health. But if I know him, all he's thinking about is, I need to get myself back out there. Now, how healthy is he? Can he fight this off? Because he is in that group, that age range. When you look at who's affected the most, well, it's 70 plus for sure.
At 6'3" and 244 pounds, the president's body mass index places him in the obese range. But beyond his weight, says Dr. Ashish Jha, the dean of Brown University School of Public Health,
his age alone puts him at high risk of complications. And so I think we're all praying that he recovers quickly.
Vice President Mike Pence's office has released a statement saying that Pence and his wife have tested negative for novel coronavirus.
Which is good, because here's the reality of it. You've got to have all your plans in place. There's a plan after a plan after a plan. You ask anybody who's a pilot, like a real pilot, and I'm not talking about somebody who gets in, who's flying. I'm talking about a commercial pilot. They'll talk about the backup to the backup to the backup to the backup. It's the same thing in politics at this level. There is a plan. There is a backup to the backup to the backup. And why it's important that Pence test negative, because the reality is you have to plan for everything. You do. Now, do I think he's going to die from this? I do not. I think Trump's a strong guy. We can say what we want. Yeah, is he a little bit bigger? Absolutely. Is he a little bit heavier than you would like? But is there a guy that's healthy as far as he eats like crap. But not too many people half his age keep the schedule that he's done. I think he's going to be more than fine. And what about the political side of it? Because don't tell me there's not a political side. Yeah, we've got an election. He is not going to be on the campaign trail for at least 10 days to 2 weeks. That's huge. Huge. As Biden kicked off his campaign train tour just a few days ago.
Puts everything on pause. It's hard to imagine campaigning as we knew it resuming right now. Another debate, Joe Biden on the trail, all of those things would seem to be off at this moment that's so much larger than politics. And it's worth remembering how central COVID-19 has been to this presidency and to his reelection hopes.
Yeah, so the campaign's on hold. You've got to look around on top of everything and ask, okay, not only is the campaign on hold, at least for you, but if we're going to get people out there to at least be your surrogates in a bigger way than you would before, we got to make sure they're healthy.
An almost incalculable number of people, from staffers to high-ranking Washington officials, are now potentially at risk of developing the virus. The vice president, senior White House advisors, including Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, and several Republican members of Congress, have all crossed paths with the president in recent days.
So the VP is fine. His wife is fine. Some of the others are probably getting tested today. Would I be surprised to find out that a few of them may test positive? No. But this does change a lot because Trump, when it comes to campaigning, when it comes to all of the things that he needs to do, he needed to work overtime. He's still coming from behind in a lot of ways in this election. And you're going to have to figure out now how you get out there and get your message out there. And I don't know how he's going to do it. I don't know how he's going to do it. And people are going to start to say, look, we told you so. Look, we told you this. Look at this. You didn't wear a mask. You didn't do anything. And that's it. See? You don't get it. And people are going to say, you said all the time it was a hoax. It was a hoax. It was a hoax. It's not a hoax. Has it been overblown at times? I think we can all agree with that. Has there been hair on fire at times? Absolutely. But for a lot of his people, and I posted something, my Facebook page has a lot of MAGA supporters. And I will tell you, some of them were like, I can't believe this happened. Some of the other people are like, I don't believe it's true. But it shows it can get to anybody. And could this have happened even if he wore a mask 24/7? Possibility is absolutely very real. I mean, if you think about it, this shows you how contagious this thing is because every person around him was being tested almost on a daily basis. But it also shows you one thing when it comes to testing. The reality is, you get tested today, you could catch it tonight. That test could show you're negative. You may have it. You get tested tomorrow, show you negative. That's the tough thing with something like this. That's the tough thing with something like this right here. And we're entering a different phase. We are a month away from the election. And you're going to miss at least 10 days, if not 2 weeks. And that's if you're fine. That's not a win. That's a tough thing. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody says. I don't. People say, "Oh, it's not a big." It is a big deal, and you know it's a big deal. Everybody out there, you understand that this is a big deal. First of all, what about the debates? Because I've said all along, Trump's best chance to not only get back in this race in a way, his best chance for that knockout punch is the debates.
These debates are now in serious question. The next presidential debate 2 weeks from now, set for the 15th, is now in real jeopardy, as is the vice presidential debate set for Wednesday. If Mike Pence is isolating, it is very hard to see how that could be a go.
Now, he's negative, and we've got ways to do this via Zoom and things of that nature, at least for Mike Pence and Kamala, and I guess if Trump is up to it. But you got to think, it's just, this changes a lot. This is huge. And I know some people out there, well, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Trump's going to get past this and show everybody how stupid this thing was and not to overreact. Well, whether he gets past it with smooth colors, flying colors, no big deal. The reality is it shows that anybody can catch it, even the person who has the access to the best medical teams in the world and who has everybody 24/7 basically tested. It also shows that, hey, not only can it get to us, it'll disrupt your life. And 10 days to 2 weeks off the trail, not doing rallies, can't tell me that doesn't hurt. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. What do you think? Text me, tweet at me. Is this a situation where we have a president that is going to not have a chance to get his message out in a way that he needs to? Is it a big deal, or do you think it's just a hoax? It's no big deal. It's nothing. 323-538-2423. That's my text line. Masterclass. Love Masterclass. So there's 85 different classes in Masterclass. People say, well, why would I sign up for Masterclass? Well, if you ever wanted to learn how to cook, you can learn from the best of the best. If you ever wanted to learn about science, politics, maybe you've always thought, I've got this great script. Well, we're not talking about people that they teach at college. We're talking about people that do it, who write the biggest movies and television shows, who you see on television cooking the best food in the world, who are the people that craft the greatest campaigns in history, teaching you these things. 85 different courses, and you just go at your own pace. There's about 20 lessons per class, 10 minutes per lesson. You can do it on your phone, your computer, your tablet, smart TV. You get downloadable materials, workbooks, exercise recipes. It is awesome. And the expanding of your knowledge, nothing wrong with that. Education comes in a lot of different ways, and this is amazing. I recommend you check it out. Get unlimited access to every masterclass. Just for being a Chad Benson Show listener, you're also going to save 15% off your annual membership. Go to masterclass.com/Benson, masterclass.com/Benson. Save 15% right there. Masterclass.com/Benson, Chad Benson Show.
Deep states? No. Deep doo-doo? Yeah. The Chad Benson Show.
The way he's handled this has been so important, playing down the threat, bragging that he helped tame it, promoting dubious treatments, misleading the public about how severe it is, and quarreling with his administration. And, even at that debate on Tuesday night, seeming to mock Joe Biden for the simple act of wearing a mask. It's pretty incredible in light of all of that. It all seems different now.
Yeah. Now, here's the other thing. Trump could sail through this. And in 7 or 8 days, they could say, well, he's had no fever, he's had no signs, and in 10 days he could be back out there, or 2 weeks, and said, look, I weathered it fine. I'm 74, and I got through this thing. And there's the other side of it too. He has things in many ways that when you look at the who could be at risk. Now, he doesn't have, minus taking some cholesterol medicines several years ago, he doesn't have underlying conditions. He's not diabetic. He doesn't have heart disease. And he's, he doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He's never done any of those things. So I think that helps as well. So, but he is in a area of worry when it comes to weight and his age.
COVID-19 is a serious infection, especially for someone that's older like Mr. Trump. And given the pre-existing conditions of obesity and heart disease, it's someone that could be at higher risk for getting sicker quicker. These folks have a 90% chance of recovery, but that doesn't mean that there isn't vigilance on monitoring.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about the heart disease nor the obesity. I mean, is he a bit overweight? I think he's in relatively good shape. When you think about it, he's 74. Like, if we can all be honest with ourselves, at 74, with the schedule he keeps up and the things that he does, we'd all probably go, oh, I wouldn't mind being 74 and getting around like that. 74 is not what it used to be. It isn't. For some people, it is. You ever met somebody who's like 70? You're like, wow, that guy's in great shape. And then you other meet people like who are 60, and you're like, wow, that guy's he's a mess. He goes. But this does change a lot of things because you have a campaign now that's trying to figure out, oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? How do we get our message out there? Because our message and the way that he was doing is he's hitting all of these states. He's having all of these rallies. He's doing all of these things. And he can't do those. And Trump's energy comes from that. And there's a lot of people out there, too, who thought, well, this thing's not real. It's fake. It's made up. Well, not so much. And if he does get very sick, what happens then? Let's say he gets not sick to the point where he's got to be on a respirator, but like a Boris Johnson. Remember Boris Johnson, kind of the Trump of Great Britain, he got pretty sick. He got decently sick. He didn't die, didn't get anywhere close to dying, but he got sick enough that it sidelined him for a while. What if he's sidelined for 4 weeks, 5 weeks? That takes him right through the election. These are things that they're trying to figure out. How do we get past this if we're going to win this election? 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. We'll talk about jobs and growth because that is important. How does that play into this as well? A lot of other stuff to get to. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Like President Trump and Bolsonaro of Brazil, Johnson's also one of those leaders who's been accused of being skeptical or minimizing the risks of the virus, only to discover firsthand how widespread and potentially devastating it can be.
Yeah. So Trump, Bolsonaro, you've had several world leaders. We talked about Boris Johnson that have gotten it. Trump is the latest. The difference between all of them, and they've survived. You go and Boris Johnson had issues. He was in the hospital, wasn't on a ventilator, but he had some issues. But Trump's in the middle of an election, and not just in the middle of it. This isn't February, March. This isn't we found out who he's going to take on in November. This is we are rounding third, heading for home, and the throw is coming to the plate, and you're starting to stumble. That's what this is. And come on, let's be real. This is big. It's the biggest story of the year. It's the biggest story of, I don't know. I'm trying to think back in my lifetime. So I'll be 50 this year, 2 months away from 50. One of my best friends turned 50 yesterday. I texted him. Said, Ray, happy birthday. 50. Said, man, is that insane? I can't ever remember anything this big. There are moments that that you're like, oh my God, but nothing that has lasted as long as this, that has affected every place on earth, basically, every facet of how we live our lives, from how we dine to how we shop to how we interact to our economy. Name something. You can't. So, yeah, this is huge. Because in the middle of an election, not even in the middle, at the tail end of an election that is bitter and hard fought, at one of the most divisive times in our modern world, the man who's the president of our country and essentially the head of the free world has come down with something that has become the biggest battleground for him for his reelection. Let's be real. This is not Biden versus Trump. It is Trump versus Trump. Trump versus his tweets. Trump versus COVID. Trump versus Trump, the guy who goes out and does things, and you're like, wow. And it's also Trump versus, oh, he didn't do this, or he said this, and oh my God. So, yeah, this changes a lot of things. It does. And what about Biden? That's a real thing, too. Because remember, Joe Biden was with him a couple nights ago. Not that they didn't shake hands, they didn't do anything. But Biden has to figure out, all right, I should probably go get tested. Because while he may not have been in close proximity as far as Trump, shaking hands they were, not too far apart for 90 minutes. But Hope Hicks was there. He traveled with Trump and them. So you can't tell me that behind the scenes that maybe Hope didn't interact with some of his people because they all know each other. Welcome to the world of modern politics. So he's got to get tested too. How would that throw? Think about this for just a second. We have the next two debates that are, there's a good chance the next one's not going to happen, or at least not going to happen the way that we think. But what if Biden had it or has it? What does that look like? Are two campaigns just on continuous pause? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. All that being said, we're also in a new month. Jobs. What does it look like? How does it look going forward? Because we're not in the recovery that we thought we would be in because COVID is still here.
The U.S. economy generated 661,000 jobs in September, well below what economists had been expecting. The final monthly jobs report before the election showed the unemployment rate dipped to 7.9%. The unyielding pandemic has slowed job growth in each of the last 3 months. The economy has recovered just over half of the estimated 22 million jobs lost to coronavirus.
Yeah. And people are frustrated. They're pissed. Some of it's at the president. Some of it's at Congress. And a lot of it's at the local level as well. They don't feel like things are getting done the way that they should. They don't feel like they can reopen. I talked to a small business owner the other day who is working. At this point, he's got a skeleton crew. And we were chatting, and he just, he said to me, he goes, you just don't know what's happening from day to day. You don't know what's happening from day to day. You have no idea. And while a stimulus sounds great, and, the fact is, I just want to work. I just want my business to be open. I want to reopen. I don't need you to continue to pay for things. And that's the frustration level. And people are, they're frustrated. I get it. Who isn't? Who isn't? It is frustrating. And as things have started to reopen, you see some spikes here and there. And this is the way I look at the spikes. And I tell people this. Because, the worry about, okay, here we go. We're going to have, the flu season, which I think is going to be mild. And you're looking around. If any indication is what's going on globally, flu season started in other parts of the world. And it's been very mild, to say the least. And part of that is because we're social distancing. We're wearing masks. We're not, kids who catch the flu very easy and can spread it. They're not in school. So a lot of that has been mitigated because of the stuff that we're doing to try to stop the spread of the coronavirus. But the coronavirus is spreading in some states. But you go and look at a lot of those states. What is it? It's young adults who are at college. If anybody, you could say, okay, well, if anybody can catch it, it's going to be them. Why is that? Well, because, 23-year-olds probably going to recover from this a lot easier than somebody who is, say, Trump's age. And, it's so look at the hospitalizations. Those are very important. So you look at the hospitalizations. If you see hospitalizations rising, you see your ICUs rising, then you start to say, okay, well, maybe this is a little bit different than that. But for a lot of places, even when you see, okay, it's spreading here, you go and you say, well, the hospitalization rate is not really being affected. So you've got a bunch of young 20-somethings. We see it on a daily basis. There's another college here that gets caught with kids having, was it Florida State this week? There was a party at like 1,000 kids and young adults. And they'll be like, well, it spread. Yeah, it probably did spread. Maybe it didn't, but maybe it did. And if it did, you got to go, all right, well, you guys are going to have to quarantine. What do you expect kids to do? When you're 18, 19, and 20, all of us, to a person, thought we're pretty invincible. Pretty much invincible. I can get away with a lot of stuff. We're this. You get older, wiser, you understand that, not as invincible as you once thought. So that's what you have to look at. Certain numbers that matter more than other numbers. Because if 100,000 people get it, but the people that get it are relatively young and healthy, compared to 10,000 people that are elderly and have underlying conditions, totally different story. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program as well. How long's Trump going to be off the campaign trail? That is, that's something that everybody's got to think about if you're in his campaign.
Okay, so generally when we talk about people who test positive or are symptomatic, we call that isolation. And CDC guidelines state that you should be isolated for at least 10 days. People who are close contacts of those who test positive, so their close contacts, should be quarantined for 14 days.
So isolation and quarantine. Quarantine is, so let's say you were exposed to it and they want you to, but they're going to get their test right away. So it'll be a little bit easier. So they may not be, quarantined for X amount of days. Isolation is totally different. You've got it. Nobody should be around you. So you need to isolate. You can't be around anybody. Can't see anybody. That's what that is supposed to be about. So Trump is, in theory, going to spend more than a few days isolated and watched big time.
He'll be monitored regularly for his vital signs, for fever, for signs of other complications. He'll be isolated, obviously, from any close contact, and he's going to be observed very, very carefully.
As you would expect from, even if he had the flu, you would expect that they're going to take care of him in a way that the average person's not going to get. Just to give you an example of how the presidency works and how it's totally different than my mother's doctor was Obama's doctor when he came out to California. So he was a surgeon and they would call him when he come out, and essentially he would just be on standby. And in some cases he would be not so much traveling with Obama right there, but within the team unit and in the other room as a just in case. Isn't that crazy? Imagine having your own doctor just traveling around and everywhere you go, you have one waiting for you. That's privilege. That's super privilege. What about SCOTUS? That's something else because people have tested, are going to be tested, have been around Trump. You've got hearings that are supposed to be coming up.
The ramifications of this, of course, extend far beyond the White House to Capitol Hill as well. Amy Coney Barrett had just been up there earlier this week, making the rounds, meeting with leaders of Congress after having been in close contact with those at the White House. There are very serious questions about members of Congress being tested, about how far this may reach, and, of course, what this could mean for her confirmation hearings, which are set to begin in the second week of this month.
That's the trickle down. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. What do you think? Big deal for Trump? Not such a big deal? He's going to get through it and he'll show everybody that this is nothing? Or does this really change the election in a way that we probably couldn't have seen, as bad and as ugly and as nasty as everything was? And it shows you the 24-hour news cycle. 24 hours ago was white supremacy, and what an insane debate that was. And now this will be the hot topic going forward because he's not going to have a chance to get out there. And the narrative is going to be this. And with him being isolated, while he can tweet and do some stuff, the reality is much different. And then the battle's going to begin. And I'll tell you where that battle is going to begin in a few minutes. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Quicken. I'm not going to tell, let's just say several $100s a month I saved with Quicken. It's embarrassing to see stuff leave your account and then you go back and you start tracking. And I was telling producer Phil, there was things that, free trials, you sign up for something and you forget about, and you start nickel and diming, and then you start looking up and you're like, oh my God, look how much money I spent here. Look how much money I did this. If I would have saved that money, if I would have eaten out less. It's nuts. Quicken lets you see all of your finances in one place so you can reach your goals with confidence. And what are your goals? Saving more, investing, whatever it is, Quicken will help you get there. 17 million users over 3 decades. The most popular personal finance software on the market. So I looked through. I had a lot of stuff that was just automatic, right? That's what everything wants, or something you signed up for once and you used once or twice and you thought that's all I really needed. But it's got the auto pay and it's a drip at a time, but that drip ends up becoming a puddle and that puddle ends up becoming big. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is nuts. Quicken gives you the tools, templates, and calculators expertly crafted over these 30 years of experience, easy to use dashboard. I'm telling you, you can pay your bills. You can do all of the things you need to do. Prepare for tax time. It's amazing. Get peace of mind and freedom that comes with taking better control of your finances today. Try Quicken risk-free. It's 30 days risk-free. You get 25% off. Just go to quicken.com/Chad. Quicken.com/Chad. 30 days risk-free, 25% off. Just go to quicken.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
A plethora of streaming possibilities this weekend.
This film is my witness statement and my vision of the future.
From a new Sir David Attenborough nature documentary on Netflix Sunday, to a new series from Sex and the City creator Darren Star, Emily in Paris on Netflix today, to a TV version of the popular podcast Song Exploder on Netflix. Basically, there's a lot of stuff on Netflix. Also, Saturday Night Live returns in studio with host Chris Rock and Jim Carrey's debut playing former Vice President Joe Biden. Carrey also featured in a new Showtime docuseries out Sunday about the famed Comedy Store in Hollywood.
Yeah, that looks really cool. There's just, it's crazy. It's a lot of stuff, and of course Halloween's here, so you're going to find a lot of things, but we're still in a situation where there's pretty much a holding pattern when it comes to the movie side of things in theaters. So Borat yesterday, and I don't know if you've seen it, producer Phil, I saw the trailer for Borat.
I did not see it.
It is awesome, hilarious. That's the best way to describe it. It is awesome. It is hilarious. It is just, if you can take satire, and by the way, he's hammering the Republicans. So, especially Mike Pence. And there's supposed to be something, they say, inside of this that apparently could ruin a politician's career. And I don't think it's Mike Pence, by the sounds of it. It is somebody else. So we'll see. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. I'm having, if you guys are new to the program here, thanks so much for listening to the Chad Benson extravaganza of silliness, wackiness, and actual truth, facts over feelings. We'll start counting down our Halloween, our favorite horror movies of all time, but I'm starting my weekend of, it's October, little Rocktober, and we're going to be, I got a couple movies picked out for the weekend. You saw the Banana Splits, right, Phil?
I did. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that's tonight. Tonight, the Banana Splits. And it was a kid's show, but this is not a kid's show. But it's based on the kid's show, which is great. And I've got a couple other movies picked out for the weekend. So start watching horror movies and getting ready for that. And of course, we're not too far away from what I would like to call my Hallmark season, where I watch every single Hallmark movie about Christmas. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Trump testing positive for the coronavirus, as is Melania. Hope Hicks. It all started with her yesterday. The news came out, somebody he's very, very close to, and he's experiencing some mild symptoms. Here's where the battle's going to come. Trump can tweet all he wants, but if he is sick, and he's sicker than he leads on to be, welcome to the world of nothing can be kept a secret. You know it and I know it. And it'll leak out, and that's where this battle of information is going to come from. And it's going to. We live in a world of information is king, whether it's true or not, and disinformation is just as big. And in an election season that we're winding down to, ready for the big night, yeah, this is huge. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
President Trump tweeted early this morning that he and the First Lady have tested positive for exposure to novel coronavirus. In her own tweet, Melania Trump writes, "We are feeling good."
The White House followed that up with a statement from the president's physician, Dr. Sean Conley, that stated both Mr. Trump and the First Lady were, quote, well at this time. The statement did not indicate if they were experiencing any symptoms.
Yeah, a little while ago, I guess they said they are experiencing mild symptoms. This is where the battle's going to go, and we're going to talk about everything from the campaign, but the information and potential misinformation, the way that this is going to play itself out. Tomorrow, we will be 1 month away from the election. Tomorrow, October 3rd, November 3rd, 1 month away from the election. He's facing at least 10 days off the campaign trail. Probably losing another opportunity to debate Biden, at least one of them. This is, if you could say, what's the worst thing for this campaign to have happen at this time? The coronavirus hitting him. So, but then you're going to have the information battle. And the information battle is going to go like this. Trump could be really sick. He could tweet, feeling okay. Got a scratchy throat, a little bit of a headache. It's mild. But he could be much sicker. And people inside could be going, And then stuff somehow magically ends up where? New York Times, CNN, sources say. Fox and everybody else, it's the deep state. They're lying. This is going to be the information, misinformation battle over the next several days, when we're probably not going to see much of Trump. He's going to be isolated. He's not going to be quarantined. Bet Melania's stoked. 2 weeks with him? What? No, he's going to be isolated. And this is a battle that you're going to have information, misinformation. Well, all that should matter is him getting well. I agree 110%. But I guarantee you, he's thinking, I'm going to get through this, but I want another 4 years. I'm going to get through this, and I want another 4 years. And I may not get to debate Biden again. And my hope was I could show in those debates, although the first one sucked, I could show in those debates that what? I deserve another 4 years. That I'm a stronger, better candidate. On top of missing one because you might just have to based on the circumstances, you've also given Biden an opportunity to say, yeah, we're not going to do another one of these. It's just not worth the risk.
That announcement came a few hours after news broke that Hope Hicks, one of the president's closest aides, tested positive for COVID. Sources tell ABC Hicks is experiencing symptoms. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
As for the people in Trump's inner circle, Dr. Ashish Jha, the dean of the Brown University School of Public Health, says
anybody who's been around the president last 4 or 5 days probably needs to be tested. We don't know who was the source of the infection to the president. It might have been Ms. Hicks, but it could have been somebody else.
Which is very true. And think about this. She traveled with him. This isn't a person that's one of those like, oh, this is my communication director / advisor, and I don't really see her that much. Or this is somebody who was a close confidant, somebody who was with him on the night of the debate, traveled to and from, also went to a rally the next day and a fundraiser. This is somebody they're saying, sources say, that they tried to keep it really quiet, that she had tested positive. And they even tried to get her out of the back of the plane when they landed the other day and they knew what the potential was. This is huge. If you're the campaign, you're scrambling. You're scrambling. Because let's remember, the message has been, it's not a big deal at times. While it's a big deal, it's overblown, and Trump, in his own words, potentially come back and bite in the ass. Sorry, that's just it. And your campaign along the way, you're not going to be doing what you do best, which is get out there and campaign. And now your surrogates are going to have to do it.
The president had 5 campaign events scheduled. He was supposed to be campaigning in Florida today, Friday. He was scheduled to be in Wisconsin. He had a full campaign schedule. Obviously, that all goes out the window.
Yeah. And that is big. Biden, what if he tested positive? Because Hope Hicks was there, right? And they didn't. Look, there was no shaking hands. There wasn't any of those things that were separated, but they were in somewhat close proximities indoors. But let's just say for a second, that Hope Hicks in the back, they're watching it. Before it, they're talking, because you know everybody. This is welcome to the world of politics. You know everybody. It's a small but large world. Large impact in a lot of ways, but small sphere. She came in close contact with somebody potentially who then has the ear just like she does to Biden. What if he tested positive? Now, Vice President Pence and his wife have not tested positive. That is good news. But this is the story. People say, you wake up in the morning like, there's only one story today. There is. The jobs market, stock market's taking a bit of a beating. It's going to be, this is the story. And this may be the story, well, it's the story of a lifetime, the coronavirus itself. I'm 50 years old. I cannot, for the life of me, think of anything close to this. We've had moments in time. Obviously, 9/11 was huge. We've had moments in times, but this as a story globally, no, it's massive. And during an election where you're rounding third, heading to home, and something that has been the true bane of your presidency the last year-ish, really 9 months or so, has now caught up with you. And then you got to think about the health side of it. And Trump, he's got some factors. I think some of it may be a little bit overblown, but let's also look at the fact that he's 74. When you go and look, and he's talked about it, who gets it? Well, a lot of people get it. But who gets it that are really the prime candidate for getting very sick? Well, that's people who are older, and Trump's no spring chicken.
COVID-19 is a serious infection, especially for someone that's older like Mr. Trump. And given the pre-existing conditions of obesity and heart disease, it's someone that could be at higher risk for getting sicker quicker. These folks have a 90% chance of recovery, but that doesn't mean that there isn't vigilance on monitoring.
Yeah, and they've got to monitor the hell out of him. They do. And they have to monitor not only him, but everybody else around him. Because those are the people that are closest, but those are the ones who are going to have to get out there on your behalf to campaign. And what's that look like? What's that look like if a good majority of his staff come down with something? It changes a lot because it's still an election time. And I don't want anything to happen to the president. By the way, if it was Hillary or if it was Biden, I don't want anything to happen to them. But I can guarantee you Trump's thinking about one thing. I got to get back out there. I've got to show everybody I'm fine. I have to win this election. And that's going to be a tough thing to do because the difference between how long they're going to be out of it, quarantining, isolation, I couldn't tell you. So the quarantine side of things, so if you're exposed to it, they're asking you what, like 10 days, give or take? And you're getting tested every single day. And it shows you, too, the weakness of testing. Even though we want to test, but the weakness of testing is it shows you it's only as good as that second. You get tested today and you have a negative test, overnight you could come in contact with it. Well, you had a negative test, but then all of a sudden you got a positive test. And that's the thing that sucks about this. There's only so much that you can do even with testing. That's why finding a therapeutic is vitally important on top of finding the right vaccine and having that breakthrough. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program as well. So much stuff still to talk about. Where does he go from here? How can the campaign carry on without him? He's got Twitter. But is that enough? And Trump supporters. I posted something on my Facebook, and there is more than a few MAGA supporters. I've got about 200,000 followers, and there's more than a few. And I will say this. Some of them are completely shocked and surprised. Some of them think it's a hoax still, deep state. A lot of things going through people's minds on this one. Maybe it's a false positive. I'm sure he's taken more than one test. I'm sure he has. I'm assuming he has. And I'm assuming they have the good testing. It's not like the NFL where like, hey, 14 of you are positive. Wait, nope, sorry. No, none of you are positive. Well, 3 of you are. Wait, hold on. No, it's not that. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program as well. Raycon's best earbuds around. So I was telling producer Phil I go out and I play golf and have a lot of fun. And when I do that, but I'm serious about it. And I work out pretty hard along the way and I'm getting more and more serious. And I love having my Raycons in. I listen to music. Sometimes I listen to books and I get really into, just being out there and enjoying it. And I like having something because when you're swinging, I don't want dangling wires or stems. But on top of that, I also do a lot of work and video conference calls. I'm on at least one a day, if not more. And to see people, those little white things with the stem sticking out of their ears or wires, 6 hours of talk time, seamless Bluetooth pairing with these Raycons, the E25s. So great sound design, great quality, nice noise isolating fit. But for me, the thing that I love is the comfort. I'm never pushing them in. It's like they almost snap in and away you go. Normally, you'd spend a couple $100 on something like these, well under $100. I'm talking well under $100, and I'm saving you another 15%. All you have to do is go to buyraycon.com/Chad, buyraycon.com/Chad. Simple and easy. Save 15% on the best earbuds around, E25s from Raycon, buyraycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Running with scissors sounds great compared to this.
Say woo!
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? All right, I'm going to give you guys the biggest thing trending on Google. And this is what's funny. So QAnon believers think Trump got COVID on purpose. They believe it's, as they say, they believe it's fake, but also that Trump has it. Some are saying they think Trump is using it as a cover to arrest Hillary Clinton. Oh, my God. It's some of this stuff is and to show the world how it's really not that big of a deal. And you're just like, are you? I don't know. We're moving on. We're moving on from that. Melania tapes. She downplayed the children in cages thing, and you hear her on, bemoaning the Christmas decorations and stuff. And I just sit there and I think, she talked about, the jacket and all this stuff. I don't care. Moving on, right? We're moving on. We're moving on from that. We move over to Twitter. Let me tell you what's trending. Everything that has everything to do with Trump testing positive with the coronavirus. Everything. People comparing him to Herman Cain. Walter Reed. What's going on? Does he need that place to get it ready? Pence. Rona. Hoax. COVID. Barron, who, by the way, tested negative. That's good. So this is it. I mean, there's no other story. I mean, this throws everything into chaos, and we're already living in chaos. We're living in a time of chaos, and this throws stuff, as far as the election side, into chaos. Because Trump's big thing was, I'm going to get him in front of the people, and I'm going to show Joe Biden he can't compete with me. I'm smarter, I'm stronger. I have taken this thing on, and he's good. That was his thought process. I mean, it's Trump, and they devised a plan, the other night, and then the minute he gets out there, that plan goes out the window. Even people inside the campaign and who work in the White House said that none of what happened the other night was anything discussed about the debate and how they had worked out the strategy. The minute he got there, it was like, hey, here we go. All of that being said, yeah, this plays a huge role in the election. We're a month away from the election as of tomorrow. And Trump now will be off the campaign trail for at least a week to 10 days, but potentially longer. And we'll discuss the potential, because you have to discuss the potential of the what if scenario. No, wait, what? You do. The reality of life is you do. There's a reason that the vice president and the president don't travel together. They're not flying on the same plane. There's a reason for you discuss these things, because you have to discuss these things. And you have to have a backup to the backup to the backup. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Plus, does this just give Biden and potentially America a reason to opt out of not just the next debate, but maybe all of the debates, including the vice presidential debate, was supposed to take place next week? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Himself as the cheerleader in chief, saying to Bob Woodward, among others, that he's been looking to downplay the virus from the beginning. He wants the American people to feel better about this. But now you have this moment of crisis in the country that is leaving him physically more vulnerable than ever. That changes everything about our assumptions around this.
Yeah, absolutely does. Completely changes everything. And it's funny because I've had a bunch of people text me, tweet at me, no, it doesn't, Chad. It's a hoax. It's not real. He's going to show the world. That may be true to you, but the reality is he's got the COVID virus. And he's not going to be on the campaign trail. And to say that this doesn't affect that, you'd be lying to yourself. And we're not just thinking in the what if scenario, he can't get out there for another 2 weeks. There are other scenarios you have to think about. And why is that? Because that's what you do. You think about those scenarios. You plan to have a backup plan, to have a backup plan, to have a backup plan. In all cases. They don't just roll things out and go, well, we'll play it by ear. It doesn't work that way. We have set up our politics with backup plan after backup plan after backup plan.
If President Trump at any time feels he's unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, he just submits a written declaration saying that to the Senate and the House, and Vice President Pence becomes acting president. Now, that's happened 3 times in our history.
Yeah, 3 times in our history it has happened. So, do I think that Trump is going to die from this? I do not. Do I think he's in a high-risk category? Absolutely. 100%. It's not even whether or not he gets sick enough that he dies from it. It's the other side of things about discharging, meaning, can you do your job at this moment, at this time, as commander-in-chief?
President Reagan once and President George W. Bush twice voluntarily transferred the powers and duties of the presidency to their vice presidents when they underwent elective surgeries.
Trump's probably looking at Pence going, over my dead body. I'd rather have Nancy have it. By the way, Nancy is one step closer. Here's a crazy scenario. Let's paint the picture, make everybody all nervous. Trump gets really sick, and he can't do it. Pence gets really sick. He can't do it. There's Nancy Pelosi. She would ascend to the presidency. That's not going to happen. I don't think Trump's going to be down for long. I could be wrong. I don't think he will. And I don't think he's going to get to the point where he has to turn over his powers, although he said today he's feeling mild symptoms. I don't know what that means, because there's no doubt in my mind if Trump was on death's door, he would not let anybody know that. Other people in the White House would, and he would deny it across the board because, you know, you never let anybody see a sweat, right? But there is no secrets anymore. There aren't any secrets. Stuff gets out. It's too hard to hide things. And if he was really sick, even if he's tweeting, I'm fine, I feel good, I've had mild symptoms, and it was really bad, I can guarantee you people inside the White House would figure out a way to make sure that it would get to the press. They would. Pence tested negative. Don't know, what this means going forward when it comes to debate, because the reality is if you, first of all, I don't think we want to see what happens in a debate like that again, because I think we already know. We've seen it once. The next debate was supposed to be a little bit more town hall, as producer Phil and I were talking about earlier. He's like, yeah, it's supposed to be a little bit more town hall. I don't see how that's going to happen. You've got the vice presidential debate next week, and then you'll have the next following Thursday, I believe, would be the president and former vice president Biden in their second debate. And this makes you think, is that even going to happen? I would say that one may not happen. That one may not happen. Then you've got other people that have been really close to the president, like Chris Christie.
No one was wearing masks in the room.
when we were prepping the president during that period of time. The group was about 5 or 6 people in total.
5 or 6 people in total? How many people a day does he come into contact with? That's the other side of things. People are trying to figure out, okay, so who did he come? There was that New Jersey fundraiser. So they're tracing right now everybody that was there. What was his entire schedule like? Who did he come in contact with? Who then went somewhere else and came in contact with?
The president has also maintained a jam-packed schedule, holding many crowded events with few safety measures. Scrapped a rally in Florida that was planned for later tonight. And with just over a month before Election Day, the presidential campaign, including the next debate, are shrouded in a new cloud of uncertainty.
Yeah, so there we are. We are there. This is real. Big, huge story, a month away. I don't know what's going to happen. I do know at least for the next, I would say 10 days, because and somebody just tweeted at me, said it's a hoax, it's it's baloney, it's just a flu, it's a cold. Whatever it is, he's going to be isolated. Now, quarantining is, so let's say you come in contact with somebody and, before you go get a test, or you're thinking, I'm not going to go get a test, but I'll just monitor myself. I'll quarantine, meaning I'm not going to go out. Maybe people come by. I'm going to take all the cautions I possibly can. So somebody come by to drop you off food or whatever, it's not isolation. Isolation is I'm going in here. Nobody's allowed in here and I'm not going to come out of here. This is what I'm doing. I'm isolated completely. No contacts whatsoever. Well, he's got it, so he's isolated. Everybody else is quarantining while they wait their results, which everybody's getting tested. And it also showed the weakness I talked earlier of the testing. And it's not so much whether or not the testing we need it or not. My doctor, he was pretty straightforward. He and I are talking about it. He's like, is it something you need to worry about? Well, because if you're older and if you're, if you have comorbidities, it's absolutely something you need to pay attention to. He goes, but I tell you the same thing with the flu and everything else. And you can go, see, look, there's been a ton of damage. A lot of people have lost their lives. He goes, the thing is, though, he goes, even with testing, he goes, what do you do? Because, even if you test positive for it, you're at that time, you're a number. But if you felt you had it, then you should quarantine, just like you should if you had the flu. You shouldn't be going out doing any of these things because there's not a lot we can do at this moment in time. We don't have therapeutics. We're getting closer. We don't have a vaccine. And he goes, you could get tested today and then, but you can walk around and go, yeah, I got tested last week. I'm totally fine. But in that time period, you could have caught it. And your test isn't worth anything. I mean, you can't tell me that Hope Hicks, who everybody's kind of saying this is where it all began, she doesn't get tested every day. Of course they do. You test it all the time. So where did she get it? What day did she get it? How did she get it? Mm-hmm. I mean, he was traveling with her. She has been another confidant, and she's a close confidant. She's the kind that, when everybody else is flying at the front of the plane at Air Force One, and there's a handful of people, like 4 or 5 people, she's one of the 4 or 5 people in the back. She traveled to and from. She's got his ear all the time now. She's played a much bigger role since she's come back. So that's real. But so how did she get it? How did she get through the testing? Fair question. And he gets tested on a daily basis. Were they not testing the way they should be? Were they only testing a select few of people that were just now coming into contact with him? Questions that need to be answered. But on a campaign, you stopping down for 2 weeks, what's been the biggest thing that people have complained about, even people on the left with Joe Biden? He's not been out there. He's not been visible. Nobody's seen him, really. He's been hunkered down. They're hiding Biden. Trump now has no choice. And when you're a month away in the battle for your political life, with most national polls showing that you're behind, you could take that with a grain of salt. It's tough to believe any of those things, but I would have to say that Biden's in the lead. I don't think it's as big as people say it is. But I do think he's a bit in the lead. And now you've had at least 10 days of campaigning taken off your books. That is tough. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. Jobs, or lack of jobs. Jobs report, not great, not the worst thing ever, but the reality is it's not the flick a switch. And I think we knew that for a lot of different reasons.
The U.S. economy generated 661,000 jobs in September, well below what economists had been expecting. The final monthly jobs report before the election showed the unemployment rate dipped to 7.9%. The unyielding pandemic has slowed job growth in each of the last 3 months. The economy has recovered just over half of the estimated 22 million jobs lost to coronavirus.
And now you've got the market that's on edge anyways. This time of election season with the presidency, doesn't matter what, whether it was Trump or if this was, 4 years from now and Trump would be leaving or Biden would be, you're going to have uncertainty in the marketplace because people are worried. Okay, what's the next person going to do? This person's saying that person's saying this person looks like to be better for the jobs. So you're going to have some uncertainty in the market, but you add COVID into it. You add a situation where you've got, tons of people are unemployed or underemployed. You've got no stimulus package. You have states that are still really locked down, some that are kind of open up, and the uncertainty of even if I open up today, am I going to be able to stay open tomorrow? There's a lot to play into that. And so when you start mixing it up and you're putting all the ingredients together, right now what you have is it's basically an ugly, not so tasty pie. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show, Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. My. Rough Greens. So I got home last night. My dog Doodle. Everybody always asks me. You can go check him out. roughgreens.com/Chad. You see Doodle, me holding Doodle. I got home and he's just, it's so funny because he's older. And he's deaf as a doorknob. Rough Greens doesn't fix that. So when I come home and I walk up behind him and he jumps up and he spins around and he starts jumping and he's never done that, right? He's been doing it for months now. Before it was, I wouldn't even dare to touch him and like in his haunches and like just pet him down his back because his fatty tumors were so nasty and his arthritis was awful. He's like a puppy. And it's all because of Rough Greens. 6 months into this thing, wouldn't change a thing. It's the best thing I've ever done for him. We tried a lot of different stuff. We spent money on him trying to say, we got to the point where we thought we'd put him to sleep. Rough Greens isn't dog food. It's just a supplement you put on your dog's food. But what it's done for him, I see it with my own eyes. It is amazing. He runs around with the puppies, which he's never done. We used to think, well, he's kind of a mean dog because when we adopted him, but that was because he was in pain. Well, it's a new dog. It's like it's a new lease on life, and he's living his best life. It's got vitamins, minerals, probiotics. It's got omega-3, 6, 9. It's got all of this stuff. You just sprinkle on your dog's food, and it brings your dog's food to life. And it has changed him so much. He's healthier. He's happier. It'll do the same for your dog. $14.95 is all it costs. $14.95. Less than $15 for a 14-day jumpstart. Put it to the test. See for yourself what it can do. You will be amazed. I'm telling you. Go to roughgreens.com/Chad. RUFFgreens.com/Chad or call 833-MyDog88. 833-MyDog88. Rough Greens, we make any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
I can't take it anymore!
Well, get over it. It's time to forge a new path with your very own political cartographer, Chad.
Her spokesperson told ABC News Republican Party Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel tested positive for COVID-19 after a member of her family tested positive. McDaniel received confirmation Wednesday afternoon and is experiencing mild symptoms. She had last been in contact with President Trump Friday and has been in her home in Michigan since Saturday.
Let me ask you a question. Ronna got the Rona? That's a double. Can't do that. It's Rona squared. I think she'll be fine. Now everybody's trying to point, like, where do we get it? How do we get it? Do we get it here? Did you get it here? Hope Hicks? Was it Hope Hicks? Was it not? Was it this? Was it that? And the battle will begin of information and misinformation. Dr. Simpson tweeted out, mild symptoms this early in COVID-19 are a bit rare and not a good sign unless he was just exposed to it. Other people say, this is no big deal. It's like the flu. Everything's going to be fine. It's a cold. Oh, the information and misinformation. Get ready for it, kids. It's going to be ugly. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Speaking of ugly, how much did that cost?
The toilet, known as the Universal Waste Management System, cost $23 million and will be delivered to the International Space Station aboard a Northrop Grumman cargo capsule. With SpaceX now launching astronauts to the space station and Boeing less than a year from sending up its first crew, more toilets are needed. Station residents will test it out for a few months before eventually flying it to the moon. The old toilets cater more towards men. To better accommodate women, NASA tilted the toilet and made it taller. One project manager said, "We don't want any misses or escapes." She said, "Let's just say everything floats in weightlessness."
Yes, everything floats. Translation, pee, turds, you get where we're going. There's a lot of tubes, if you will. A lot of things like that. And the old ones were obviously geared for the dudes, and now there are more and more women going to space, so got to make that kind of change. It's like, what do you say at that point? I'm just $23 million. $23 million. Now, it should go up tonight. It was supposed to go up yesterday, but they had to scrub it. So they're going to just go test it out. Hey, guys, we got you the world's most expensive outhouse. But you guys have at it. See how it works. What do you do? Like, this, I was thinking about this, and I didn't have a chance. I talked to Mark Kelly. He's running for Senate here in Arizona the other day. And I didn't have a chance because I was going to ask him about aliens. But I also wanted to ask him, so, like, where's the stuff go? Like, after you're done with it. It's like, there's a plumbing system, obviously, but you just shoot it in space? Are there astro turds floating around? Chad, you should be more serious. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Trump testing positive, as has Melania, Vice President, his wife, not positive. They are negative for coronavirus. Craziness. If you thought 2020 couldn't get weirder, ha-ha! Welcome to October. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
President Trump tweeted early this morning that he and the First Lady have tested positive for exposure to novel coronavirus. In her own tweet, Melania Trump writes, "We are feeling good."
The White House followed that up with a statement from the president's physician, Dr. Sean Conley, that stated both Mr. Trump and the First Lady were, quote, well at this time. The statement did not indicate if they were experiencing any symptoms.
Mild symptoms now is what we're being told. Mild symptoms. How big is this? You know, you've got people out there, oh, it's fake news, deep state. The reality is he's got it. So this is not fake news. This is not a hoax. Remember, he's never said that this was a hoax. He said that the Democrats, and that's something we always need to remind everybody, is people take things out of context and they'll leave things out because it helps their whatever. that they're trying to purvey. This is my point of view, or this is what I want to push you to believe. That is totally undeniable. It's like there's good people on both sides. You go read the entire quote, but if you take a snippet of something, you're like, oh, okay, well, hold on a second. That's the thing that makes me laugh. And then when you hit people with that, but this is something completely different. This is a president of the United States who is facing an election that is already tough because it's been very divisive. Even if there wasn't COVID, Trump and his personality and his abrasiveness, it's a turnoff to a lot of people, even who like the things that he's done. And so it has gotten ugly, not counting COVID. You throw COVID in the mix, which is the biggest story in my lifetime. I cannot think of an... Somebody said, what about 9/11? 9/11 was huge, but context-wise, it happened in New York. I was in Southern California. It happened to my country, but you got to go to work on Monday. And other people... This affects the globe in a way that when we sit back and we think about the fact that we lost how many people, not just lives, but how many people have lost their jobs, how many people are facing financial ruin, all of those things. And then you throw in the health side of it and like, oh my God, it's very real. And now you throw in an election that's less than a month away that is so divisive. And we only had to see what took place the other night to realize how nasty this is. And I've said all along, the economy, because it's always the economy, stupid, and Trump's big chance to get really into a position where I think he has a shot at winning this thing was going to be the 3 debates. The first debate was an absolute cluster. And now there's a chance we may not see another 2 debates. You've got the president that's going to be isolated for at least, I would assume, 10 days. At the bare minimum, but I couldn't tell you. Because as far as the symptoms and how sick is he going to be, he's never going to let anybody know how sick he is, even if he gets really sick. I don't imagine that to be true. Trump doesn't want to show any kind of weakness. Trump's message has been, it's not as bad as it is, and all of those things. There's been a lot of that. Now, people think he isn't taking it serious. I think he's taking it serious at times, but I also think he's tried to downplay it because on the other side of things, let's be real. The left has overplayed it. As if you get this thing, it's the same thing as getting the Ebola virus, and you pretty much have no chance, or getting AIDS in the 80s. You're on borrowed time. And that's not true either. So downplaying it for your... Not just, the funny thing, it's not just for your base, but you're fighting a battle with media and because there's no doubt in my mind. I have friends who work on Democratic campaigns across the country. I have people who, much like the Trump side of things, when they talk about Kellyanne Conway, the violence is good. Well, she didn't really say that. When you go look at the whole thing, you're like, all right, but yeah, they take advantage of opportunities. They do. So, of course, it's an overstatement and an overplay at times from people. And it's optics. Trump didn't want to wear a mask. Why? Optics. I don't want to appear weak. I don't want to make it seem like this is, that's not what I want to do. It became something. Yesterday, I'm watching television, and I'm like, why is Maxine Waters by herself in her office wearing a mask on an interview when there's nobody else around? Because of the optics. Well, what's the optics like now for Trump? What's the optics like now? Because when I go on the interwebs, which I implore people, do as much as you can, to stay away from them. You've already got it's fake news, it's just a stupid flu, he'll be fine. He'll be fine doing rallies in less than a week. You've got other people saying this is a massive deal. I think it's a huge deal. He is going to be off, I think, a little bit longer than a week, but there is a message that goes with this. There is. There is absolutely a message that goes with this, and both sides will start to spin the message in certain ways, and then you're going to get the disinformation. If Trump is really sick, he'll tweet out he's fine. Why? Because he doesn't want the electorate to know. So all the people out there that he's really sick. He doesn't want his base to know. On the other side of things, even if he's tweeting that out, there'll be people out there that inside of the White House, as we all know, nothing is a secret anymore. Things will get out. And what happens when things get out? It's the fake news spin. This is the battle that's going to happen.
It is also a huge blow to his central message on the virus. He has been out there arguing that the country is rounding the corner, as he says, on this pandemic, and that he can tackle this crisis. The fact that he now has a positive result completely undercuts his message.
So it's, the mask thing. We're already hearing it. So-and-so didn't wear a mask today in an interview, and this, that, and this is what's going to happen. And you won't even know where you pick it up. Let's be real. Unless you're with somebody 24/7 and you knew the place they went and you don't go anywhere and that's the only person that comes to your house, then you could probably go, I probably got it from that person. And they may not even know where they got it. They may not. Now there's the other side of things. The what if scenario, because you have to protect yourself across all scenarios. And that is, what if he gets really sick?
If President Trump at any time feels he's unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, he just submits a written declaration saying that to the Senate and the House, and Vice President Pence becomes acting president. Now, that's happened 3 times in our history.
Yeah, it's happened. Because, issues. Reagan?
President Reagan once and President George W. Bush twice voluntarily transferred the powers and duties of the presidency to their vice presidents when they underwent elective surgeries. What if any president falls so ill or is otherwise incapacitated that they can't make that written declaration? Well, then the vice president convenes the cabinet under the Constitution, and the cabinet then will vote. If a majority votes, they will submit a written declaration.
Yeah, and the vice president, as we know, is Pence, and Pence spends some time with the president. But there's a reason they don't travel always together. They will go to certain things. It's not like they don't see each other, but he too has been tested.
Vice President Pence tested negative Friday morning for COVID-19. His spokesman tweeting that Pence has been tested every day for months and is in good health, adding that Pence wishes President Trump and the First Lady well in their recovery from the virus. At a campaign event on Tuesday in Pennsylvania, just before the presidential debate, Pence told supporters he was with the president in the Oval Office earlier that day. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
So they'll be testing and testing and testing and testing. So what they're saying is probably started with Hope Hicks. She started coming down with symptoms. They had her tested. She spends a ton of time with the president, very close confidant of him, the First Lady, and kind of took over that. Kellyanne Conway kind of stepped up. She was very close with them, and she left, and she came back in March, and here we are. Now what? Well, now what is the campaigns are still going on, but in a much different way. And that debate that was a debacle, and people are hoping, well, maybe the second chance will be totally different and we'll get some better answers and less fighting. There may not be a second one. There may not be a third one. We may have just seen the one. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program as well. Then you've got jobs, you've got the market, and you've got SCOTUS. That's all up in the air. We're going to talk about that. My pillow. Sleep better? Yeah. People say, what's my favorite thing about My Pillow? The pillow, everything's amazing, but I love they've got Giza sheets and towels, and they are incredible. And right now they've got a BOGO going on. You buy one, you get one free. What does that mean? Any of these things, you buy one of those things, they throw another one in for free, and it's awesome. You get a 60-day money-back guarantee. You get a 10-year warranty. Everything's made in the United States of America, and it's awesome. And if you're traveling, I tell everybody, get the Stone Goat pillows are amazing, because I do travel a lot. Well, I did till the coronavirus hit, and it is just awesome. It really is. Get it now. You buy one and get one free. Go to MyPillow.com. Use the promo code Benson. When you do that, on the way out, you'll have an opportunity to order Mike Lindell's book. If you order his book, he is going to ship everything for free and give you a $25 gift card towards your next purchase. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
If you're part of the politically exhausted majority, don't fear. Your time to be validated and rejuvenated is here. Wake up. It's the Chad Benson Show.
That becomes a little bit of a strange thing in terms of how does he campaign, et cetera. But just outside that, everything we have going on in the country in terms of our relations with China, et cetera, just a lot going on, and a tough time for the president to be on lockdown for 2 weeks.
Yeah. JJ Kanana, economist, talking about stock market, what's happening, jobs, not as many jobs as people were hoping for. Unemployment, while at 7.9, is realistically probably closer to about 15%, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, and depending where you are in the country, maybe a lot more or a lot less. That's a big thing. The economy's stupid. We say it all the time, but it does matter. If there was no coronavirus and the economy was motoring along, as much as people think Trump is an a-hole, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It would be like, oh, how much is he going to win by? But we're not in that situation. We've seen the coronavirus decimate not only people physically, we've also seen it decimate the financial world. When it comes to the average American, people are struggling. They are. And even if they're seeming to do okay, the fact is, for a lot of people out there, they're living on a knife's edge because they're not sure what's going to happen tomorrow, especially small businesses. I mean, I look on the bright side that we still have about 80% of Americans that are working, relatively well. But make no doubt about it, this is ugly. And you couple that now into the middle of a cantankerous, awful, just nasty election. And now the president has the coronavirus. It's, 2020. What do you say at this point in time? What about jobs? It's a big thing when they talk about it. Slower growth than usual, but there were some improvements.
Leisure and hospitality, I think not surprising. Bars, restaurants, et cetera, by far leading the way with 318,000 new jobs. Retail trade second, 142,000 new jobs. Those were the two that were the hardest hit.
Yeah. And so they had the most to gain as they come back. But those are also a situation where you're going to do what? Because we're going to hire, we're going to open, we hope people come back, but it's going to be at a limited capacity. And at any given time, if we see a spike in cases, that could go away like that. So nervous, to say the least.
When we go down to more of the career type jobs for many people, then it comes to healthcare, professional and business services, which lead the way.
Mm-hmm. So it's a crazy time, but still, people are thinking, are we going to get the opportunity to really reopen? How close are we to a vaccine? Moderna announced that they're not going to have anything ready before probably February, March. A lot of people were hoping on that. There's several others that are out there that I think we're getting closer to. One thing we really didn't touch on that needs to be touched on is there may be a therapeutic really close by. I thought we'd have one by now, and we may have some that in circumstances that we haven't used them, that they're using them now, work better. than people think, including the steroids that they've talked about. But all of this plays into what's going on in the job market, which is playing what's going on with COVID. And the COVID virus is doing what it's doing, and that includes the President of the United States. No matter how much security you have, no matter how secure you think you can make everything by testing everything, this virus is everywhere, and you can't travel and do the things you do and not think that you're going to come in some sort of contact. And it shows you also somewhat of the holes in the testing, because you can test somebody, but it's only as good as that moment that you test them. Unless they stay in the same place, don't go anywhere, and nobody else does, there's always a chance that you're going to come in contact with somebody who's had it, who has it, and they may transfer it. What do you do? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program as well. SCOTUS, is that being thrown up in the air because of this? How soon Tilly gets back on the campaign trail? That's a fair question as well, because he's thinking about it. Absolutely. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
He continues to be not only in good spirits, but very energetic. We've talked a number of times this morning. I got the 5 or 6 things that he had tasked me to do, like I do every single morning.
That's Mark Meadows there talking about the president, coronavirus getting to him, as well as the First Lady. Ronna McDaniel, the head of the RNC, also test positive. Mark Meadows, at least right there, not positive, but he had spent a lot of time with the president, and then he had spent a lot of time also with the SCOTUS nominee. We'll talk about that. And then there's the question of, how sick is he? Because it's early in it, right? We just found out that Hope Hicks had it, and that's where a lot of people think that he contracted it from. But so how sick is he?
They remain in good spirits. The president does have mild symptoms.
What's that mean? Would you even know? Producer Phil and I were talking about it. Trump's never going to let you know how sick he really is. I just don't think that's... And how can you? I mean, can you blame him in an election? He may let everybody else know around him, but he would want to reassure the base and the American people, even if they don't like him. You don't want to tell everybody. You keep things quiet. I mean, look at what we have in Hollywood. I mean, Bozeman Chadwick died a month ago. Nobody even knew he was really sick. People keep things quiet. But it's tough in D.C., especially now. And that's where the information and misinformation is going to really get ugly. Because if he is really sick, and I don't know, but he tells the world he's not, you don't think that's going to get out? Of course it's going to get out. Who are you going to believe? If you're on his side of the voting aisle, you're going to be like, oh, that's all fake news. Other people are going to go, uh-oh. And then you got to look at the campaign. Here's the reality with the campaign. It's not really a campaign at this moment, outside of commercials and your surrogates going out there and selling it. But you were the best salesman for you.
The president had 5 campaign events scheduled. He was supposed to be campaigning in Florida today, Friday. He was scheduled to be in Wisconsin. He had a full campaign schedule. Obviously, that all goes out the window.
Yeah, out the window. How long? Don't know. I couldn't tell you. And to say that it doesn't matter, it matters.
He has talked about himself as the cheerleader in chief, saying to Bob Woodward, among others, that he's been looking to downplay the virus from the beginning. He wants the American people to feel better about this. But now you have this moment of crisis in the country that is leaving him physically more vulnerable than ever. That changes everything about our assumptions around this.
Does it change what his fervent supporters? No, I posted a poll Ask the people, does this change anything? Does this change anything at all? And, I've seen it throughout social media today. 26% say this changes. It's massive. 29% says not that big. 35% say doesn't change a thing. And 9% say it's fake news. There's still 9% of people out there. Even when the president says, I've got this thing, still 9% of people out there are like, it's no big deal. It's a flu. It's a cold. He'll be up. He'll be out in a week or so, campaigning, doing stuff. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like in a week or so. I don't think anybody knows what it's going to look like. What's he taking? More controversy.
I'm not going to get into any particular treatment that he may or may not have. He has mild symptoms. As we look at that, the doctor will continue to provide expertise. Because people are asking, isn't he taking hydrochloroquine? Mark Meadows there says, I'm not going to get into this thing. I'm not. I fully expect that as this virus continues to go on, other people in the White House will certainly have a positive test result. Yeah, it's going to happen. And you've got the SCOTUS hearings coming up. Well, guess what? She's met with Trump on several occasions. Mark Meadows spent a lot of time with her, and he spends a lot of time with the president. So it was supposed to start soon. This may toss things in the air because on top of all of that, she's already been meeting with other members of Congress. So this is crazy. This is nuts. It's 2020. It's wacky. What you have is a virus that is contagious, that certainly continues to be, regardless of whatever protocol we have, that it has the ability to affect everybody. And that's huge. And the reason for that is, and we've been talking about it throughout the morning, is no matter how much testing goes on, and the question is, what about testing? How much testing really goes on? A number of us in the core team of the White House continue to get tested on a daily basis. But yet, Hope Hicks apparently was the one who showed the first signs, and where she got it. But it shows you also that testing is only as good as that moment. And so the whole thing when you're testing is you try to find out who's the last person that has it. Let's break the track of it going and moving on to somebody else. So we're gonna try to break it. This is the link. Let's break the link. But it is only as good in the moment. It's not good for preventing people you've already been around from getting it. And you get tested today. So I've got, tested, and you can have a negative today, but that is good for how long? Well, you go home, you stop at the grocery store, you go back to work. That test is worth what now? Well, it's negative. You've come in contact with other things along the way. And unless you're hermetically sealed, not going to do a lot. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us and text the program as well. So the other question is Hope Hicks, because stuff's kind of leaking out, and you got to take a lot of this stuff with a grain of salt. How real is it? Are you trying to make even more out of it? Did you hide it? Because some people are saying they knew Hope was sick, and they kind of hid it. Mark Meadows. I'm not going to get into the TikTok. I can tell you in terms of Hope Hicks, we discovered that right as the Marine One was taking off yesterday. And then they went into contact tracing, getting everybody aware, getting people tested. Trump announced last night that she had it, said that he was quarantining with Melania and that they were taking the test. And a few hours later, really probably a few minutes later, they knew they had it. And now what do they do? And then the question about the campaign, what goes on from here? How long off the campaign? Quarantine? What is it?
People generally are considered, according to the CDC recommendations, 10 days from the time of diagnosis or their first symptom is when they are recommended to isolate. So those are the general CDC recommendations at this time.
And we've heard people that sail through this thing. But let's also keep in mind, we talk a lot about Biden's age. And Biden sent his, well wishes to the president and Melania, but he's not a spring chicken either. And he's got a few issues himself when it comes to his age, his weight. Those are real things to talk about. Because when we talk about who's most at risk for getting this and potentially dying, people who have comorbidities, no matter what the age, depending on how many you have, serious ones, people who are obese, and then age range.
COVID-19 is a serious infection, especially for someone that's older like Mr. Trump. And given the pre-existing conditions of obesity and heart disease, it's someone that could be at higher risk for getting sicker quicker. These folks have a 90% chance of recovery, but that doesn't mean that there isn't vigilance on monitoring.
So I think he'll be fine. I have no doubt that, he's got the best people in the world around him. He's got a doctor and an entire medical staff that nobody, outside of billionaires, that you couldn't even think about what he has got located around him and taking care of him. And being the president, you got the, the Try It Act or the, Let's Try It Act. You may say, give me whatever you got. Just go in there. There's always the conspiracy theory, right? That, like the movie Outbreak, like that they have this stuff somewhere as a just in case, the antibodies and all of that stuff. He's got I do not for a second, in my mind, not that I'm saying it can't get serious and he couldn't die. That's always a possibility. Absolutely, 110% is always a possibility. I think he'll get through it. I think there's going to be spin along the way. And when you think we're a month away from the election, he gets back out on the campaign trail sooner. People are going to be like, I mean, he's not a spring chicken. He's 74. But if he doesn't get out there the way that he thought, even if it's instead of 10 days, it's 3 weeks, it's 2.5 weeks. This is the worst possible thing for him and his reelection. And I know that sounds weird, but he's thinking about it. His followers are thinking about it. The electorate, they're thinking about it. The Republicans, to a person, are thinking about, oh my God, what might happen? Chaos, craziness? Yeah. And then the question is, what if Biden has it? What if both of them have it? Pence doesn't have it. But what if both have it? There is no campaigning from here on out. It's just commercials and some Zoom calls and tweets and surrogates that nobody really cares to talk to. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from each and every single one of you. Wounded Paw Project is an amazing organization. Been working with them for a while. They rescue dogs who would otherwise be euthanized and train them to be really the most amazing service dogs for our veterans, first responders, and their family. One of the great stories is there was a dog out here, 2 dogs, that were found in a landfill. And one of them was a fighting dog, and I think the other one was a bait dog, kind of just abandoned. And, they recommended we need to put these dogs down. Ernesto and Wounded Paw recognized, no, you don't have to do that. We're going to rescue them. And the fighting dog has been trained and now is with a veteran's family member, a son who's autistic, and he works with him. It's amazing. They need your help. Any car, truck, RV, boat. It's a vehicle for change. You'll be saving a paw to save a life. Money's going to work to advocate, train these animals and get them into veterans, first responders, and their families' homes to help them out. Find out how you can give and do more. Go to woundedpawproject.org, woundedpawproject.org, woundedpawproject.org. Chad Benson Show.
Don't let the Washington Beltway strangle you. This is where the exhausted majority comes to refuel, realign, and reevaluate. This is Chad Benson.
A plethora of streaming possibilities this weekend.
This film is my witness statement and my vision of the future.
From a new Sir David Attenborough nature documentary on Netflix Sunday, to a new series from Sex and the City creator Darren Star, Emily in Paris on Netflix today, to a TV version of the popular podcast Song Exploder on Netflix. Basically, there's a lot of stuff on Netflix. Also, Saturday Night Live returns in studio with host Chris Rock and Jim Carrey's debut playing former Vice President Joe Biden. Carrey also featured in a new Showtime docuseries out Sunday about the famed Comedy Store in Hollywood.
A lot of stuff. Movies aren't open. You're looking for an escape this weekend, and let's be real, I think we're all kind of looking for escape every once in a while from modern day life, but then you throw in an election cycle like nothing we've ever seen on top of COVID virus and the struggles in the economy. Everybody's looking for something, and movies at the theater was one of those big escapes. You can't do that. Concerts, not so much. Thank God, at least at home, we've got opportunities to see stuff. Lots of football this weekend. You got the baseball playoffs, the NBA finals, golf, good stuff. And I implore you, get away from it. We got to talk about it's my job. It's what I do. It is. And all too often, people get caught up in the day-to-day fighting of it. But the reality is this is unlike any election cycle ever. Take away even the nastiness of it. From unrest to in the country, to the COVID virus, to the economy that is struggling at times, and for some people it's devastating financially. It's crazy. And now you throw in the fact that the President of the United States, who has at times downplayed it, his own words, and I get you don't want to terrify the American people. I don't want you to come out and go, we're all going to die. We wouldn't want that. To the misinformation, to the disinformation, to the fact that some people will believe nothing. You can just hand it straight to their faces. To the chaos of the 24-hour news cycle. Sometimes you need to just breathe and say, I want nothing to do with it. People always ask me, what do you do on the weekends? Well, look, I've got my phone. If something insane happens, you know what happens, right? You don't have to. I was watching Jeselnik. If you guys don't know who Anthony Jeselnik is, a brutal comedian, one of the funniest ones ever, I think. And he is dark, and the stuff that he does is very dark, and the stuff he tweets about. And it had gotten to the point where he goes, I don't even need to look at the news, because I know if something's going to happen, my friends are going to text me and tell me, don't do it. Then I know something's happened. And that's the kind of guy he is. So it's not like and I try to escape. I do. Every day I'm hitting golf balls, I'm going for a run, and I'm getting my vitamin D out there. And thank goodness in a weird way that I'm a redhead, because we produce more vitamin D. Isn't that crazy, right? Like, this part of the soullessness. But you do need an escape. And I think this weekend, the best thing that we can do after a weekend that started crazy and then got even crazier on Tuesday, and, now here we are heading into an election, and you got the President of the United States testing positive for the coronavirus. It's nuts. So take some time, watch some football, hang out with the kids, turn off social media as best that you can. And people always ask me, how do I get by the comments? Because you got to see some of the stuff I get. It starts out with, you're the worst person ever, and horrific threats and stuff. And you just laugh. But my son asks me all the time, Dad, do you care? I said, I don't care. I don't know these people. I had a guy that listens out there in Indy, and, he said some stuff, and then over the last 2 days we've been, talking back and forth, and he's DM'd me a few times, and it's totally different now. And I think the more we treat people better, it's really a good thing for your soul and for your happiness. Get away from it all. Have a blessed weekend. Going to be a crazy one, I'm sure, politically. But you know what? We'll get through it. We always do. God bless each and every one of you. Night, night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.